continue to follow breaking news in the Middle East. Israel says Iran launched missiles into its airspace overnight, more than 2 hours after a ceasefire deal was supposed to take effect. Israel vowed to fight back, but now the president is saying Israeli fighter jets will turn around.
Early this morning, President Trump said he was, quote, not happy with Israel after he says both nations violated the agreement. He had announced a ceasefire agreement on Monday, just hours after Iran launched a limited missile attack on a U.S. military base in Qatar. Well, joining us now is an expert from the University of Denver, Dr. Frederick Mayer. He's the dean of the Korbel School of International Studies.
Well, good morning. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. You know, after these breaking developments overnight, we want to ask you about ceasefire agreements in the Middle East, how fragile they can be.
Well, it's a great question. They can be very fragile. Obviously, President Trump, pretty bold move, really, announced that there was a ceasefire, and it looked like both Iran and Israel had accepted it. But as you've heard in the report, Israel claims that Iran violates the ceasefire. It then announces that it will strike back. These things tend to be very fragile.
Absolutely. And, Doctor, when we talk about peace in the Middle East, we've been talking about this for decades, if not hundreds of years, if you will. What are the next steps for a lasting peace between these two countries in that part of the world? Is this a first step, you think?
Well, there have been many hopeful first steps over a long period of time, as you alluded to. It's possible there's a scenario in which this breaks the kind of stalemate that's been in place for a long time. Certainly, the hope of the Trump administration that this effort to knock out Iran's nuclear capabilities will be contained, that the ceasefire will hold, that this will actually bring Iran back to the negotiating table. Perhaps they hope for regime change, although there's ambiguity about what their real goals are. So yes, I mean, Iran has been a menace in the region for a long time. And it is clear that it's much less powerful position than before, not just its nuclear capabilities, but the loss of the power of its allies, Hezbollah and Hamas. So it is possible that this is a game changer, but there have been so many twists and turns in the Middle East that it's really hard to predict.
My kids have asked me about this because we just think of that as happening so far away. Right. But should we be worried about anything here?
Well, Iran's capability of projecting force is limited. There are things it could do. Probably, most vulnerable the U.S. forces in the region. But even there, it would be wary, I think, of really engaging and provoking the United States. Of course, over a long period of time, it has fostered terrorism through its proxies, and that's possible. It also has some cyber capabilities. My own sense is that the risks here are quite minimal. Iran is really in a weak position at this moment.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's the silver lining for us here in Colorado. Dr. Frederick Mayer, Dean of Korbel School of International Studies, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We do appreciate it.
My pleasure.